The Trump administration has announced plans to crack down on what it calls gender ideology in Maryland schools. Patrick Huff from our Spotlight on Maryland team has the latest on whether Maryland schools will adjust to federal demands or face potential defunding.
It's always great to get a win for common sense, biological truth.
That's Rosalind Hanson, a Maryland mother and the director of development for Moms for Liberty. At Celebration, a letter this week from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services threatening to defund Maryland's Personal Responsibility Education Program, or PREP, over the use of what HHS describes as gender ideology lessons. The program is run through the Maryland Department of Health and is intended to educate young people on both abstinence and contraception to prevent pregnancy and sexually transmitted infections. It targets public school students aged 10 to 19. However, the Trump administration alleges that MDH implemented lessons outside the scope of the PrEP program. Specific examples that Health and Human Services says MDH must remove from its curricula include instructions for teachers to use gender-neutral names and scenarios in role plays and referring to someone with a vulva versus a girl or woman. The current program directs Maryland teachers to tell students that you can change your identity with an example of always being attracted to one gender and then finding someone or others of a different gender attractive later in life. Another cited curriculum in the current Maryland program states that some may identify as male, female, or transgender. Hanson said MDH must change course.
I would hope that our administration here in Maryland wouldn't want to lose millions of dollars in federal funding, that they would respect common sense, biological truth.
A federal grant database shows MDH has received about $11 million for the PrEP program since 2013. HHS said Maryland is set to receive another $2.4 million for the program if the cited gender ideology lessons are removed. An MDH spokesman told Spotlight on Maryland that they are reviewing the announcement to assess any programmatic implication. He said the PrEP program is offered in Baltimore City as well as Allegheny, Dorchester, Prince George's, Talbot, Washington, Worcester, and Wacomico counties. PrEP is not the only sex education program at MDH facing threats of defunding this year from the Trump administration. We previously reported on how the Teen Pregnancy Prevention Program in rural Maryland counties promotes different gender identities. Here's one example of a teacher training for the program that we obtained in a public records request.
Not every woman is able to carry a pregnancy. Some women, again, remember our three categories, some women might have a penis and testicles.
The Supreme Court struck down a policy for Montgomery County Public Schools this year that refused parents an option to opt out their children from a series of LGBT books. Some of the programs in question for elementary school students included Pride Puppy, Uncle Bob's Wedding, and Born Ready, the true story of a boy named Penelope. As the Trump administration continues to push back on what it calls gender ideology, it's worth noting that the Maryland Health Framework requires lessons on different gender identities starting in kindergarten. We'll monitor whether Maryland continues to offer these lessons. For Spotlight on Maryland, I'm Patrick Huff.